For these poor unfortunate souls. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at our local Regal cinema, and now we're going to talk about it in the parking lot, in the shady corner of the parking lot where drug deals go down, and podcasts. We're going to try to answer such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you wait for streaming? Do you absolutely have to see it in theaters? Should you snack, nap, or craft during it? All these things. Should you sing along? Which is appropriate for the movie we saw tonight. I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, we saw a movie. This movie is called The Little Mermaid. Now you may say, I've already seen The Little Mermaid.
But have you? Really?
This is the new and updated live-action Little Mermaid with real mermaids and real sea creatures.
Yes.
And so we saw it. There's some people in it who you might know. And Tim, why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I will start with our leads, who I would say are not known, but I'd say will probably be known after this. Halle Bailey is our star as Ariel. I don't believe she's been in anything major before this. She's the center of the story, obviously. And Jonah Hauer-King is the name of the man playing Prince Eric.
Man,
I also don't believe he's been... It looks like he's just been on some British television. The names that people probably do know, Javier Bardem plays King Triton, Ariel's father. He's been in plenty of things. He was a James Bond villain. He was No Country for Old Men. He's been around quite a while. Ursula is played by Melissa McCarthy. She's been in a lot of stuff. Perfect casting, really, in my opinion. And the only other ones I'd say is the voices. Flounder is Jacob Tremblay. He's a kid actor who's been in a few things. I believe he's on Stranger Things, and I think he's been in other things as well. Daveed Diggs is Sebastian. He's mostly known for being in Hamilton, and I think he's a musician. And in honor of Todd, Scuttle has been cast as Aquafina.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that last segment.
Yes, but I would say that's most of the names you would know. And I guess maybe the director, he was Rob Marshall, who has done a few mostly musicals and or big sweeping things. He did one of the Pirates of the Caribbeans. Chicago's probably his biggest Hollywood movie. And he also did Into the Woods, another musical. So
Into the Woods.
There you have it. So who is Jacob Tremblay in Stranger Things?
I don't know Stranger Things. I just... hold on, I gotta look that up. While I do that, keep chatting.
Yes. Well, so what is The Little Mermaid about? Well, if you're not sure, this version of The Little Mermaid is quite similar to the cartoon version of Little Mermaid. It's about a little mermaid who is obsessed with human things and makes a deal with a sea witch to get legs in exchange for her voice, and then she has to get a prince to kiss her in 3 days, and your standard mermaid meets man story of true love. That's really what it's about. And there's no big shockers, deviations from the same story.
Yeah, are we gonna talk about how can things be spoiler free for a movie that's been out 30 plus years?
Well, I don't know, Todd. Follow your heart.
All right.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing really there's no
they,
twisty turns for me to go
No, if anything, they just expanded some stuff. And
yeah.
Made it more reason. They gave them a little more, I wouldn't say depth, but more time together, so you understood the relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not it's not like Ursula is Ariel's secret mom or something.
No, they didn't change anything radical at all.
Did they finally make Ursula Triton's sister? I don't think that was ever talked about in the original.
Yeah, I don't remember that detail.
And that was always the Disney theory.
Yeah. I think they just went with it here.
Well, now it's Disney canon.
True.
All right.
Mr. Tremblay, I
Yes.
misspoke, was not in Stranger
Oh.
Things.
Okay.
Okay.
But he was in a few things. He was in The Doctor Sleep. He was also...
Oh, he's the boy
Yes.
who gets murdered.
He's also his,
That movie with the
his main
baseball
role.
boy.
His main role is he was the
He
kid.
was in.
he was the kid in Room with
He was
Brie
the kid
Larson.
in Room. Wasn't he also in? What's that movie? I know you've seen it because we've joked about it before. The movie about the 3 young kids who are friends and.
Good Boys.
Yes.
Yes, he is also in that, and he was the title voice of Luca, which was a Pixar movie a couple years ago.
Gotcha.
He's been around.
Okay.
He's
So
only 16. He was also young Phil on Last Man on Earth. The TV show. Yeah. Anyway,
One of my
there you go.
favorites.
Yep.
well, now is the time of the podcast where we share our gut reactions to this movie, and we'll start with Todd. Todd, share.
I would love to share.
Share your thoughts.
And
under
I
the
will
sea.
right now. And I have to again preface some of this by saying some of this is just me. I understand that, but I'm gonna be true to myself because
As
that's
you
what we
should
are
be.
here.
That's all we ask of you.
I don't think a live action Disney movie off of a cartoon that is from my beloved childhood will ever be a winner to me. And part of the reason is, and again, this is me, I understand it. When we take cartoon movies and make them into like kind of quote unquote real stuff, it's hard for me because once you bring it into the real world, I'm like, okay, well, where are the real world consequences of some of what's happening? Like, I didn't like that only 3 aquatic, like, fish or anything. Like, there's only like 3 fish that speak in this movie, and like the rest can't for some reason. I don't know. Like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. They have a whole long scene where the bird's underwater just talking, hanging out. Like, I didn't like that. I'm like, hey, that bird needs to breathe. Like, it's hard for me because you're pulling, when it's in cartoon form or now in like a, computer, whatever it's called, CG, for the Pixar stuff, that allows me to like expand past like the physical world problems of what I see. When we bring it back to the real world and we're like, hey, let's take this fantasy thing, but let's bring it into the real world. It was a cartoon. We're going to bring it, quote unquote, into the real world and stuff like that. I have a hard time. Like, I thought some of the CG underwater stuff was good, and then there'd be scenes where I thought it looked really not good. And I didn't understand why we were fluctuating between the two. I certainly had a hard time with like every person who's being portrayed under the water was really trying to always do the like floating like body moving and stuff, and it came across as weird to me at times. I thought the acting was fine in this movie, but just like West Side Story, and I know that I've talked about West Side Story a lot on the podcast, when we redo movies and they're only changed just a little bit and stuff like that, I understand they don't want to be like, hey, we're not going to squash your childhood, we're not going to change too much. But when they redo movies like this, it always feels to me like people are doing an impression of the people who came before them. And I thought Javier Bardem made the role his own. Like, I didn't feel like he was much like King Triton from the cartoon. But then I felt like most everyone else was just doing an impression of what has come before. And, I'm just not a fan. Like, the movie's not bad. I think kids will absolutely eat it up. Probably young adults will absolutely eat it up. Anyone who is fond of Disney movies, I think, will probably eat it up. It just was hard for me. I didn't like... Flounder looks so weird. Sebastian looks so weird. It just, I don't know. So far, I don't think any of these live-action Disney movies have been a home run. Like, this isn't the worst, which I think is still Lion King. This was better than Lion King, in my opinion. But, like, it just, I don't know. I'm going to totally chalk this up to my own crazy brain not allowing me to get sucked into this experience and enjoy it as much as I could have, I guess. But it's just, I don't know. I can't get past myself with these movies. Like, leap out of my body and just sit there and enjoy it. So, I think if you're a Disney person, I would say if you have any inkling to see this movie, you should see it in theaters, because I think it looks pretty good on the theater. I don't think it's going to translate so great to a smaller screen. So if you're going to see this movie, you should see it in theaters. I think this movie is great for kids. I mean, it could be. We certainly experienced a family tonight who brought all their kids, including their really, really young kid. So it's a good family movie to go to. I know that I'll be coming back here in like 2 days with my daughter to see the movie again. So I don't think I would see this again unless I was bringing my daughter, but I guess I'm glad that I've seen it. Yeah, I mean, I just... I don't know where I'm going to rate this movie. I'm having a hard time with it. But I'm at least being honest with myself that I think it's my own crazy brain that allows me to not enjoy this specific movie. I can't pick it apart and be like, that was crap, that was bad. Like, I can't pick it apart like we picked apart Hypnotic or anything like that. Like, but I realize it's my own craziness that's that is creating this barrier for me. So that's where I'll end it. So if anyone can follow what I just said, then I appreciate it. So, Tim?
Well, Todd, maybe it's not you with the crazy brain.
Okay.
It might be me, because I, to this point, have enjoyed every single live-action Disney remake that has come out. Varying degrees of like versus love versus,
Sure.
But I don't think I have not enjoyed any of them. And I haven't seen them all, but I've seen most of the big theater release ones.
Sure.
And I put this one right up the top, near the top of them. I thought it was faithful. Like I said, they didn't have to change much. It's a very simple story. And yes, it's longer than the original, but I watched the original recently, and it was, I thought, actually kind of short and almost like too short. And this one gave it the depth I think it needed, so you understand the relationship between Eric and Ariel a little more, and it means a little more, with the whole kiss the girl and getting them to fall in love in a short time frame.
I meant to say, and this is my own fault for crapping on the movie.
Yeah, you're fine.
Not coming back to what I liked about the movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
But I thought that the time that Eric and Ariel spent, any time they were together,
Yes.
just exploring the world,
Fantastic.
I thought was fantastic. Like, I enjoyed, and you got to see more of like the kingdom, what kind of kingdom that is
Yes.
and stuff like that. They were out with the people,
and they
all
had
that kind of
shared
stuff.
interest in exploring, and,
Yeah.
and I think that gave it more depth than just like, because the cartoon's very much he's dreamy,
Right.
whereas this was much more like a real people connecting, and without one of them being able to speak. And I thought they really thought about that and made it work.
Well, and
And the chemistry was there.
I found myself, and I was like, who am I? I found myself at times just smiling when they were together, and I
Yeah.
was like, isn't that cute?
They are cute.
I was like,
Sorry,
you guys are so
it's
cute.
Disney. They are cute.
And then it was like, anytime it wasn't just them, I was like, all right, let's bring it back to the business that I enjoyed here.
Yes, no, I just think it was a very faithful, and they didn't try and make it like darker, or they didn't do anything to really mess with the heart of it. And they added a couple of songs that I didn't remember. I mean, and I thought they fit in just right, like as if they were there all along. I thought the whole thing worked. I think Halle Bailey is a star. They could have cast anybody, and like you said, maybe do an impression or just kind of be the role that was in front of her. But I thought she made it her own while still being, what Ariel is, and I think that's a credit to her. And she's got a great singing voice, and she just has that. She was able to capture that wonder that the Ariel character has of like everything being new, and you felt for her. And like I said, they gave her a more 3D character. She wasn't just boy crazy or dreamy. She was like, she wanted to explore the world, and that's what fascinated her about Eric, not just this hot guy who fell in the water that I saved. It was much more than that. I think that made it better. And I thought all the sidekicks were fun. Like you said, Javier Bardem tried to make King Triton his own, and Sebastian. I know you're not the Awkwafina fan. I thought she was fine as Scuttle. She captured the same spirit of the kind of doofy bird who forgets stuff, and she was fine. It was like exactly perfect cartoon voice, just like Sarah Silverman works in Wreck-It Ralph. There's some people who are just meant to be, I think, more cartoon people than
I think I've come to the conclusion of my problem with Aquafina is that Aquafina's voice is the epitome of someone talking at you, not to you.
I get what you're saying, but I think that works for the kind of bird she was playing.
That is...
That's why I thought Scuttle's like perfect for it.
Maybe it's like just my
Yeah.
my intake of that.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I just dawned on me the other day when I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe it's because I feel like when she's in a movie, she's always talking at me
Right.
and not like to me. We don't have a conversation. She's always like, she's always on me about something.
Yes. And but I also thought the CG looked really cool, like underwater especially. Whatever effects they did to have their hair always moving like it's underwater, and their face was always kind of shiny because underwater it'd be wet all the time. And it just and they spoke and it looked natural. They didn't have to do anything to their like voice or bubbles or whatever Aquaman did. Like they just were like, this is what people would look like if they talked underwater. And I just thought it looked really cool. And I'm glad it was colorful. So many movies lately have been dark or kind of not lit right. I thought the underwater scenes looked great. And then it looked even better when they went out of the water. Just like, it was almost like her seeing the world, so everything was even brighter when she was out on the surface. So I really was enamored with this movie, and I think it's one of the best live-action remakes they've done.
I think the perfect way to encapsulate when I was trying to explain my problem with this movie is my first thought when people are talking underwater. I'm like, how are you all hearing each other? Like, I don't understand. What's carrying those sound waves there? Like, how are you making the sound?
And see, I guess I'm just watching a movie, and it's a cartoon, but live-action cartoon, so I'm not thinking about that. My brain doesn't think about it.
That's where I wish my brain was different.
And
I would enjoy my movie experience.
And you said like how they look like. I mean, to me, okay, flounder looks like what a flounder looks like. Sebastian looks like a crab. So to me, it's like that makes sense that they look like that, and they still were the characters I always think of because the voices were right. So I don't know. It all worked for me. So I was very happy with this.
Fair enough. Matthew.
Well, now we'll hear how my brain is crazy.
Yes, let's see.
Okay. I like that.
So there were things I liked about this movie. There were things I didn't like about this movie. So I will share those things with you now, as is the time for that. I really liked the casting in this movie.
Yes.
I thought that Ariel was great.
Yeah, she was. She really was the star of this.
She encapsulated that character. No problem with that. No problem with, lots of different types of people represented in the movie. I know that's been like in the news.
I kind of love that all the other mermaid sisters were pretty much a different race.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
I thought capturing, the idea.
I was like, keep trying. You get around, man. Are we talking about like 6 different mobs, or are we just pumping out different babies every time?
It's different with mermaids.
You don't know mermaid physiology.
I did appreciate that one of the only white people in this movie was adopted.
There was that.
Yeah.
They were like, well, we gotta have like maybe like 1 or 2 white people in this movie, or else people are gonna lose their minds.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
back to you, I guess.
I loved all the old songs being in there.
Still catchy as hell.
They did great with those, and I liked, I liked that they kept to the story. That was fine. The acting throughout the movie was fine. So it's an okay to solid movie. Like, you had a lot to work with. You had the whole cartoon thing laid out already, and you stuck to that, and those were good choices. What I didn't like was the new songs. I didn't think that they worked very well, with the exception of maybe like the one on the boat, the little wannabe sea shanty song at the beginning.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that one worked, but aside from that, I wasn't super happy with the new songs that they added. And so I thought that the CG underwater was not good.
Okay.
I looked at it and I just kept saying, this looks weird to me. But maybe that ties in with another problem I have, which is that I think I just don't really think that actual sea creatures are very attractive to look at.
Look at all these ugly fish around here.
Yes. That
octopus is butt ugly. What's that?
So we went from like cute cartoonized versions of these sea creatures to
What they actually look like.
what they actually look like, and that was, I don't know. I just was kind of grossed out by it a lot
Some
of
of
the
it was
time.
unnerving to me. Anytime flounder was like the focal point on the thing, I was like, oh, this is creeping me out.
Yeah.
That's what a flounder looks like.
I get that they were trying to be realistic with it, but then that takes me down different roads, like you were saying, Todd. Is like, well, why is the bird not breathing underwater if we're going to be realistic about this? And
Well, they're talking.
Right. I get it.
Also, there's just stuff that I was like, I know you let that stuff pass when it's a cartoon. Like, it doesn't, well, for me,
Right.
it doesn't bother me when it's a
Right.
cartoon. We're in a cartoon world and stuff like that. But then, like, even during, even from the cartoon, and I thought they did a pretty good job too with this one. I love the Kiss the Girl song scene.
Oh, I really love that.
And I
in
thought
this
they
one,
did
too.
a pretty good job
pretty
of doing
cool.
that. Except for in the original, I'm just in wonder and I like it. In this one, I'm like, does he understand what the crab's singing to him? Like, I just was like, I don't understand. Like, there'd be times where he would like almost be like, "What am I hearing?" And I'm like, "Do you hear the crab?" Like,
I got the idea.
and then it was like one time the
It's almost
crab
like
was on
he
his
thought he
shoulder.
was. Yeah,
and I was like,
and then he flicked
"There's
it
a
off.
crab on your shoulder." Like, how do you not feel
but
that?
he flicked it off. I mean, so I don't know. I thought I like the way they because they made it more this time like we're trying to make sure they see it.
Also, flounder I can understand because the bird probably flew him in. How did the other two people how did the other eels get to that lagoon? Like,
I'm
that
sure
is
Ursula
that is
sent 'em
cut
there.
off
Yeah.
from the ocean.
Evil.
And that stuff in
Evil
a
magic.
cartoon makes me go, I don't even think about that stuff when it's a cartoon. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that, like, when I first saw this movie way back in the day, I was super young. So
Sure.
you don't care
Right.
about that kind of stuff.
Right.
As an adult, if you're going to transition into some of this stuff, it's like, I don't know. And I don't know because I guess my daughter liked some of these live action movies, but I don't think these live action movies, remakes, capture the wonder of it being in a cartoon. Like, that's hard. I mean, that's, like I've said, that's hard for me. I don't know.
Yeah, again, it's funny. You bringing up this stuff is the first I've thought of any of it as far as how I went when I saw it. So and how it went for any of them.
Yes.
So
Sometimes, Tim, I wish we could just switch brains.
I know. Yeah, no, because I guess for me it's like I know I'm in the Little Mermaid world, so to me I don't apply cartoon rules necessarily to it. I just like this is a fantasy world where mermaids and all that exist, so I don't think about that stuff. We're still singing animals and all that kind of stuff, so it doesn't make me apply all the real world physics to it.
Maybe
Yeah.
doing the podcast for as long as specifically Matt and I have done, maybe I've just become so jaded.
That could be.
Could be. Well, I think we're kind of putting our finger on some differences between us,
Yeah.
which is that transitioning from cartoon to live action is definitely harder for Todd and I than it has been for you, and Tim,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
And that's
you know,
fair.
and that's fair. I think that people are gonna have their own opinions on that particular
I agree
point.
with that. Yeah. I
So
think what would be interesting to know is if somebody saw this version first,
Yes.
and then they saw the cartoon, and then what would their comparison be?
I would love to
That would be
interview
really interesting
that
to know.
small child.
And just in general with the other Disney movies, like the other
Right.
ones too, like what, because like we're growing up a generation where they might look at those as, oh, that's an old looking cartoon. I'd rather see this.
Oh, I'm sure that's how they feel. Like,
So
I mean,
you know what I mean?
any young person who
Right.
watches something of old, like, so at work, I work with several younger people,
Yes.
and I'm always like, hey, check out this movie, it's pretty good. And they'll come back and be like, that movie looks like crap.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so-
well,
right.
yeah, it's from the 80s. Like,
Right.
what?
right.
So it makes you, yeah. So it's like we have the perspective when we grew up with these movies, but I wonder. Not
Yeah.
that it changes our gut reaction because that's what
No.
people are here for, but it's one of those things where it's a cultural kind of shift. So, but it's funny that I'm on board with it, and so I don't know.
Well,
At least so far, I haven't seen them all, like I said, but I've
Tim,
seen most
you
of
have
the
a brain of wonder, while Matt and I are.
I do still have wonder. I do still have
jaded.
wonder.
hardened cynics.
It's so funny because
Well, not
But I'm
always.
also usually the guy who likes everything, so
Sure.
there is that.
Well, I would say, you know, if you've been watching the live action Disney, you got to watch this one too. And you know, if you
Complete the set.
I really wish that we could have had my friend Ed on tonight. It's his favorite
That's
Disney
his favorite.
movie.
I didn't even think
The
of it. Did
original.
we invite
Nice.
him at all?
I talked with him today about
Okay.
it, and he had to work tonight, so
I
he
assume
couldn't
they'll
make
eventually
it.
make all of our favorites at some point,
Yeah.
if they haven't already.
I'm waiting for.
I'm a Hercules man.
I'm waiting for Robin Hood, the animated
that
version
would be
converted to live action.
I've always wondered if they were going to go down that road.
I haven't heard that being on the list.
No, probably not.
Well, now it's almost like every other movie gets a theatrical release, and then when they
Yes.
do one, and we're like, well, this didn't pan out. They're like, we're just going to slide it on the radar,
Yeah,
and release it like Peter
Peter
Pan
Pan
and
went on
Wendy.
Disney.
Yeah,
Pinocchio.
they were like,
Pinocchio.
yeah, Pinocchio
Lady
really
and-
slid on it.
Lady
They
and the
were just
Tramp.
like, let's just release it on Disney Plus and call it a day.
What is your favorite live action Disney one, Tim?
I mean, Little Mermaid was pretty good. I also really enjoyed Cinderella. I thought they did that really well.
Okay.
Beauty and the Beast was good too.
Yeah.
Jungle Book was cool looking. But Jungle Book I never really loved in the first place. So that one was. I mean, I just thought it was well done, but I didn't have any attachment to it.
Jungle Book was hard for me because the voices in the original Jungle Book are so iconic to me.
Yeah,
And
I just didn't have the
Bill
attachment. to
Murray
Jungle Book.
was a horrible Blue, and freaking Christopher Walken as
It's too Christopher Walken.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, they made wrong choices across the board. The only
Yeah.
good thing that they did was that they got Idris Elba to do.
Yeah,
to be
Elba
Shere
was
Khan,
fantastic this year.
who was great.
And then what was it? I liked Aladdin a lot too. I thought that really worked. So yeah, I've enjoyed most of them. Jungle Book probably being the least of that group. I have not seen the Disney Plus ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, why
I-
would you at this point?
Well, Lady and the Tramp looked cute. Lady and the Tramp was a Disney Plus release, like when it launched. So I don't think that one they were ashamed of. I think they wanted something that was exclusive.
I want them to get weird. Like, was Aristocats? a
Aristocats
Disney-
is on the list.
like,
Yeah, that's on the list. Right?
let's make a real life movie about cats.
Yes.
Well, they'll just make cats talk. I mean, they already did that with Lion King.
They've already done it with cats. The movie.
Let's
not bring it up.
Let's not
bring
low
that
point
up.
of the.
All right.
All
So
right, bringing it back home.
enough of that. Enough of my thoughts and interspersed with others.
Yes.
I would say that I don't think you need to see this movie, unless you. I mean, if you want to, go see it. I mean, I don't give it an endorsement. I give it a ambivalent.
Okay.
And aside from if you have little kids, yeah, sure, take them. They'll love it. And you may feel like your childhood is being smashed, or you may love it too. Anyway,
Fair.
that's where I'll leave it.
All right. Well, let's get down to some ratings here.
Yes.
How many Max the dogs would you give this movie?
Yeah, Max.
And I thought Max was criminally
Underused.
underused.
I agree.
Obviously, 0 being the worst because then you got no Max the dogs.
No
and you're
doggies,
just
no-
like,
no
what
sticks.
What are you doing?
No
Like,
stick, skip, fetch.
Yeah, and then 5 being the best because you got 5 and hopefully they don't fight. We all get along. We're a nice, big, happy family. Let's start with Matt.
Yes. Well, so I think the source material is still there. It's still good. It's still a good story. There's still good songs. So I'm not going to drop too low. But man, I really don't like sea creatures. I don't like the ugly sea creatures that they had in this movie, especially Flounder.
Poor Flounder.
I think they did him
Well,
dirty.
fish are ugly. Like
be-
that's the thing is that
Yes.
in the cartoon world, fish are cute. Like
Don't be
Right.
such a guppy.
Right.
Oh.
Yes. I'm not a guppy. So I'm gonna.
don't flounder on your radio.
There were some more ocean puns in this script than there were in the original. I appreciated them.
Yes. I'm gonna come in with a 2.9 Max the Dogs out of 5, and If you had cuter ocean creatures, it would be better. But
Just dress them up a little bit.
Take that,
so
Ocean.
They weren't so ugly.
I think
Weird tentacles
there
flying
was
everywhere
enough.
in every
There was
scene.
enough CGI in this movie that they could have made Flounder a little bit cuter.
Yeah, no matter how much you dress up seaweed, it's still seaweed. But when it's in the cartoon world, you're like, oh, look at the seaweed. It's great. Mm-hmm. Tim?
I landed at a 3.4. As I said, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a faithful recreation. Doesn't replace the original, but I don't think it's intended to. I think it's for this generation, and I think it's fine.
Fair enough. I'm going to dip below just an average rating, and I need to explain why. I debated whether or not I was going to talk about this, but since, whatever, this movie, the gist of this movie is 30 years ago. So, the thing that they changed in this movie that I really didn't like is Ariel saves Eric from Ursula instead of Eric saving Ariel from Ursula.
I get why they did that, though.
And I get why they did that. It was probably like a little bit of female empowerment, a little bit of that kind of stuff. But what I liked about that in the original was that their story came full circle. She saved him, he saved her, boom, true love. Like, this one, after that, it felt lopsided. Like, it didn't land with me because I was like, yeah. Also, the giant Ursula was so distracting and didn't look good to me. I always thought it
was crazy. I always thought it was crazy in the original too. So
Yeah.
I was like, yep, they kept this faithful.
So yeah, I'm at a 2.4, and I didn't. They broke the circle complete, and I didn't like that, but still, if you're gonna see this movie, you're gonna see this movie no matter what we say. So like, I accept that, but
if you're looking for our advice, which you probably are if you're listening.
if you're a person of a certain age and you fondly remember the original, so far I don't feel, and I know that I'm probably in a class of my mind, none of these live action remakes have captured the specialness of the originals. So if you're expecting to go into this movie and like really feel that special feeling that you saw when you were a kid and you watched the original, I would argue you're not going to. Tim would argue maybe you will. So,
And I would say I haven't really seen any of those movies except for Beauty and the Beast, which I thought was great.
Yeah, it was really good.
But I didn't think this was great.
Yeah, that's fine.
fair.
So, there you have our wide and varying opinions on live-action Disney
We
movies.
were a little all over the place today.
If you're listening to this, you're probably used to that.
Yes.
That's why you come here, probably.
Yes.
That's why you listen to us.
Right.
You're ready for
we all agreed all
you're
the
ready
time.
for steady,
Right.
reliable Tim.
Yeah.
You're used to crazy, I can't relate to what he's talking to Todd. And then I would say most of the time people kind of rely on sensible Matt.
Most of the time.
So
It's my new nickname.
Most of the time.
Sensible Matt.
you're so sensible.
So sensible.
All right. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap this? Wrap our tentacles around this episode.
Oh man. No.
I think life is good under this.
Okay. Wow.
Unless you're Matt.
Yeah. Then you're terrified at every
Oh
turn.
my gosh, this fish is looking at me.
Algae. I
And they didn't even show the truly ugly fish, like Grubers and all, all
Right.
that. Like,
yeah. I will say one parting thought is that I didn't like Aquafina in this one, even though I tried.
Yes!
I tried.
Yes!
I couldn't root for her in this one.
I've always felt that rift between us, man. You're always trying to stick up for her.
I can't this time. I thought that her rap song was not
But
good.
you could blame Lin-Manuel Miranda for that.
Yeah.
And I will. Not
And
everything
I
that man
do.
touches is gold.
Right.
There are some flops.
Yes. I was reviewing today our score of In the Heights, and I was like, man, we didn't like that very much.
Yeah, I definitely didn't.
Well, anyway. Yes, so that's going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we review the live-action version of The Little Mermaid. And we gave it an average rating of 2.9 Max the Dogs out of 5, which is slightly above average. I think we could say, yeah, you probably want to see this if you have any kids or you like Disney stuff, go see it. And you can see it in the theater. It's good for that. And if you hate ugly sea creatures, you may want to skip it.
May want to steer clear of this one.
Yes. So, thank you all for listening and subscribing and downloading our podcast. Please continue to do that, and we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da-da.
da da da.
Da-da-da.